We took a random volunteer and dropped them deep into a secluded forest. No phone, no internet, no mirrors, no identity, just them, a journal, and 5 days to face what's been holding them back. On day 1, they laughed. On day 2, they cried. On day 3, something broke open. And by day 5, they weren't the same person. Because what most people don't realize is that real freedom doesn't come from gaining more, it comes from letting go.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
And today, you're going to do the same. Not by running into the woods, but by diving into your own mind. You're about to begin a journey that 99% of people never take. Not because they can't, but because they're too afraid to lose what's been keeping them stuck. We're going to let go of 5 massive things that are silently destroying your peace, your power, and your potential. And if you stay with me, you'll walk away lighter, clearer, and more conscious than you've ever been. But fair warning, this isn't easy. Letting go is one of the most psychologically painful and spiritually liberating things a human being can do. Because the things we cling to are often tied to our identity, and letting go of them can feel like death. But the philosophers knew this. As Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And how we react is shaped by what we hold on to. The first thing we need to let go of is the need for control. This one is subtle but deadly. Most of us live with the illusion that if we just try a little harder, plan a little better, or worry a little more, we can control life. But life is chaos disguised as order. It's unpredictable, wild, alive. And when we try to dominate it, we suffer. We become tense, anxious, disconnected. Control is a trauma response. Somewhere along the way, you were hurt. You experienced uncertainty that felt unsafe. And your mind decided, if I can control everything, I'll never feel that pain again. But that's a lie. Control doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. It closes your heart. It narrows your experience. It turns you into a manager of life instead of a participant in it. Here's a question to sit with. What would you feel if you stopped trying to control everything? What emotion is hiding underneath your obsession with certainty? Fear? Anger? Grief? That's the real work. Letting go of control is letting go of the illusion that you are the god of your life. You're not, but you are the witness. And in witnessing, you find a power far greater than control. Trust. The second thing you need to let go of is your attachment to identity. This one cuts deep, because most of us don't realize how much we are clinging to who we think we are. The smart one, the funny one, the successful one, the victim, the overachiever, the misunderstood genius. These roles become our prison, and they block us from evolving. Your identity is a story, a collection of memories, beliefs, and labels you've carried for so long that you've forgotten they're optional. But the soul doesn't care about your story. It cares about your truth. And truth is fluid. It changes. It grows. It dies and is reborn over and over. But when you cling to identity, you resist that rebirth. You resist your own expansion. The philosopher Heraclitus said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river and he is not the same man." Let that sink in. You are not who you were yesterday, and you won't be who you are tomorrow. So why hold on so tightly to a fixed idea of self? Ask yourself this: who are you without your story? Without your name, your job, your habits, your wounds? That question isn't meant to be answered. It's meant to be lived. And the more you let go of identity, the more space you create for something far more powerful: being. Being is not a role. It's not a brand. It's not a personality type. It's presence. It's aliveness. It's pure awareness. And you can't access it as long as you're clinging to the mask. The third thing we need to let go of is resentment. Oh, this one is poison. It feels like power, but it's actually pain on repeat. Resentment is the story we tell ourselves to justify our suffering. They hurt me. They betrayed me. They didn't see me. And maybe that's true. Maybe they did. But as long as you hold on to that story, you're choosing to let the past own you. Resentment doesn't punish the person who hurt you. It punishes you every single day. It keeps your nervous system in fight mode. It keeps your heart closed. It keeps your mind trapped in a loop. And the tragic part, most of the people you resent have already moved on. Or they're suffering too, and don't even know how much pain they've caused. Buddha said, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. So the only real revenge is releasing the fire. Not for them, but for you. Because when you let go of resentment, you reclaim your energy. You break the chain. You stop being a character in their story and you start rewriting your own. But how do we do it? First, we feel the pain fully, without bypassing, without trying to be above it. We allow the grief, the rage, the betrayal to pass through us like a storm. And then we choose. We choose to forgive not because they deserve it, but because we deserve peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without attachment, feeling without being defined by the feeling. The fourth thing you need to let go of is the fear of being seen. This one hides in the shadows of your life. It's the reason you play it small. The reason you don't say what you really mean. The reason you wear the mask, keep the peace, and hide your brilliance. Because being seen means being vulnerable. And vulnerability, for many of us, equals danger. But here's the paradox. The very thing we fear is the thing we crave the most. To be seen, to be known, to be loved, not for what we do, but for who we are. And you can't have that while hiding. You can't be truly loved if you're not truly visible. So every time you dim your light to make others comfortable, you betray your own soul. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote, "Hell is other people." But the real hell is the version of you that only exists to please other people. The version that's edited, filtered, and sanitized for approval. And the longer you keep that version alive, the more disconnected you feel. Because deep down you know it's not you. So what would it mean to be seen for real? To speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. To express your art, even if it's messy. To let people in, even if they might walk away. That's where your power lives. Not in perfection, but in presence. In the raw, unfiltered humanness of your being. The fifth thing you need to let go of today is the belief that you are not enough. This one is the root, the seed, the original wound. It whispers in your mind like a parasite. You're not smart enough, not attractive enough, not talented enough, you're not worthy. And every decision you make from that place is a negotiation with your own worth. But let me tell you something radical. You were enough the moment you were born, before the achievements, before the trauma, before the conditioning. You don't become enough. You remember that you already are. And remembering is what letting go is all about. Letting go of the lies, the comparisons, the inner critic that was never yours to begin with. So here's the question: what would your life look like if you weren't constantly trying to prove your worth? If you made decisions from love instead of lack? If you moved through the world truly knowing that you are already whole? That's not ego. That's liberation. That's what happens when you stop looking for permission and start living from your truth. These 5 things: control, identity, resentment, fear of being seen, and the lie of unworthiness are not just psychological patterns. They are spiritual prisons. And every moment you let go of one of them, you take a step toward freedom. Not the kind of freedom that's given to you, but the kind you claim, the kind you become. If you've made it this far, you've already done something extraordinary. You've looked directly into the mirror of your own mind and stayed. Most people flinch. Most people run. But you didn't. You came here to remember what the world made you forget: that freedom isn't found in gaining more, it's found in letting go. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It's an act of radical strength. It's the moment when you stop gripping the rope that's been tearing your hands apart. It's the sacred decision to stop trying to carry a weight that was never yours to hold. But here's the truth they don't teach in school or on social media: letting go will cost you everything you thought you were. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. Think about how much of your life is shaped by avoidance. We don't let go, not because we can't, but because we fear what might rush in when we do. If I let go of control, what will happen? If I stop identifying as the overachiever, who will I be? If I forgive, will they win? If I show up authentically, will I be rejected? If I believe I'm enough, what excuse do I have left not to try? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Because the life you want, the peace, the joy, the clarity is hiding behind the things you're afraid to release. You don't need to add more to your life. You need to subtract everything that isn't aligned with your truth. That's what real transformation feels like: not a sudden burst of success, but the slow, courageous act of saying, "I'm done carrying this." Let's go back to the first point, the need for control. It's so deeply ingrained that we don't even realize it's controlling us. We micromanage our lives, our partners, our futures, believing that if we can just get everything right, we'll finally feel safe. But safety doesn't come from control. It comes from presence. And control is the opposite of presence. It's a war with the moment. You can't control the waves, but you can learn to surf. You can't control what people think of you, but you can control how honestly you show up. You can't control the future, but you can fully inhabit now. And when you start living from that place, you become dangerous in the best way. Because now you're not moved by fear, you're moved by truth. Here's what's wild. The moment you stop trying to control everything, life starts to flow. Opportunities appear. People align. Synchronicities unfold. Not because you forced them, but because you finally got out of your own way. That's not magic. That's alignment. That's what happens when you stop fighting the current and start trusting the river. Now let's revisit identity. Do you really know who you are without all the roles you play? Without the mask you wear at work? The version of you that shows up at family dinners? The persona you curate online? Most of us are just playing characters in a script we didn't write. And we forget that at any moment we can drop the act. But dropping the act is terrifying because it means exposing what's underneath. And what if what's underneath isn't good enough? That's the fear. But here's the truth. What's underneath is the only thing that's ever been real. The only thing that can actually connect, inspire, and love. The rest is noise. The rest is armor. Nietzsche once said, "Become who you are, not who your parents wanted you to be, not who society told you to be, but who you are." And you can't become that unless you're willing to let go of who you're not. That's the work. That's the liberation. And yes, it's messy, but it's also real. And real will always beat perfect. Then there's resentment, the silent killer of joy. You may think you've moved on. You may tell yourself it doesn't matter anymore. But if you're still bringing that story into conversations, if you still feel that tightness in your chest when you hear their name, if you're still playing out imaginary arguments in your head you haven't let go, you've just buried it. But buried pain doesn't die. It festers. It leaks into your relationships. It sabotages your dreams. And it keeps you energetically chained to the very person who hurt you. Letting go of resentment isn't letting them off the hook. It's taking yourself off the hook. It's saying, I will no longer give my peace away to someone who hurt me once and continues to hurt me in my memory. Forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about remembering without attachment. It's about telling the story without needing to bleed from it. It's about choosing peace over punishment. And yes, it takes time. But every moment you choose forgiveness real, embodied forgiveness, you reclaim a piece of your soul. Now we come back to the fear of being seen. This one hides in plain sight. It's in the joke you don't tell, the art you don't share, the love you don't express. Because what if it's not good enough? What if you're not good enough? So instead you hide, you shrink, you play small and call it humility. But the world doesn't need more humility. It needs more authenticity. It needs people willing to be fully seen, messy, raw, unfiltered. Because that's what connects us. That's what makes us lean in. You don't fall in love with someone's perfection. You fall in love with their presence, or their vulnerability, their realness. So here's the challenge. What would you do if you weren't afraid of being seen? What would you say, create, express, or share if you knew you were already worthy? That's your edge. That's where you need to go. Not to impress others, but to become whole. Because every time you hide a part of yourself, you fracture your soul. And finally, the root wound, the belief that you are not enough. It's the silent script behind almost every fear, every overachievement, every meltdown. It's the whisper in your mind that says, you'll be loved when, you'll be worthy if, but that's a lie. A lie someone told you, or showed you, or modeled for you, and you believed it. But you can unbelieve it. You can choose a new story. One that says, I am enough right now. Not because of what I've done, but because of who I am. That's not arrogance. That's truth. And truth doesn't need proof. It just is. So stop waiting. Stop waiting for the world to validate what your soul already knows. You are enough. You are whole. You are ready. Not tomorrow. Not after the next degree, promotion, or relationship. Operation today. And once you let go of the belief that you're not enough, you become unstoppable. Because now you're not chasing love, you are love. You're not seeking success, you embody success. You're not trying to be someone, you're finally being you. You've come this far. That alone makes you rare. Not because you've read some words or watched a video, but because you stayed. You didn't run from the discomfort. You didn't scroll away when it got intense. You didn't pretend that these truths weren't about you. You stayed present, and in a world addicted to escape, that's revolutionary. Letting go is not a single decision. It's a practice, a return. 1,000 tiny moments where you choose peace over pride, truth over image, soul over safety. And now you've seen what most people never do. That the chains we live in are often handcrafted by our own minds. And the key, it's been inside you the whole time. But now comes the hardest part, the application. Knowing what to let go of is easy. But actually releasing it, moment by moment, breath by breath, that's where the real transformation happens. Because your old patterns won't just vanish. They'll resist. They'll whisper to you in familiar voices. They'll try to convince you that the pain is safer than the unknown. And that's when you have to remember, comfort is not the same as peace. Let's ground this. What happens when you start letting go of control? You begin to feel everything you've been avoiding. The fear, the grief, the sense of helplessness. But underneath those, something else emerges: trust. A deep, unshakable trust that life doesn't need your micromanagement to unfold perfectly. That the universe moves with an intelligence far beyond your plans. You start to breathe differently. You listen deeper. You stop reacting to every little thing because you're no longer trying to bend the world to your will. You're learning to dance with it, to move in rhythm with something bigger than your ego. And that's when the magic happens. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. When you let go of identity, you stop performing. You stop trying to be the smartest person in the room, or the most liked, or the most successful. You realize that none of those things ever satisfied you anyway. They were costumes. And now, you're naked in the best way, raw, real, alive. You're no longer trying to be somebody. You're just being. And in that being, you discover something radical. You are enough without the story. You're enough without the accolades. You're enough without the trauma badge. You're enough without the mask. And that realization doesn't puff you up, it humbles you. It softens you. It makes you stop judging others because you've stopped judging yourself. When resentment is released, your heart begins to beat differently. It opens. It doesn't forget the pain, but it no longer clings to it. You begin to realize that forgiveness isn't soft, it's fierce. It's the decision to stop bleeding from wounds that should have already scarred. It's the moment you say, I choose freedom over fury. And yes, it takes time. Yes, it might come in waves. Some days you'll feel free. Other days the memory will burn again. But even that is part of healing. You're not failing, you're feeling. And feeling is how the wound finally gets air, finally gets light, finally gets the chance to transform. When you let go of the fear of being seen, you start to live in color. You stop shrinking to fit in. You stop editing your truth. You stop apologizing for your brilliance. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. Your presence becomes a mirror, a lighthouse, a reminder to everyone around you that it's okay to be real, that it's safe to be human, that perfection was never the goal, only authenticity was. And the more you show up as yourself, the more you attract people who resonate with the real you, not the mask, not the performance, but you. And finally, when you release the belief that you are not enough, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing. You stop begging. You stop trying to earn love, respect, and validation. You realize that you've been running a race that was rigged from the beginning. And you step off the track. You sit down. You breathe. And for the first time, you feel whole. Not because you achieved something, but because you remembered something. That you were never broken. That you were never lacking. That you were never behind. You were just buried under fear, under shame, under layers of conditioning. And now, you're unearthing your truth.